Why do some people struggle with money while others make the right decisions and build lasting wealth? In this mini-series, Dr. Matt and I explore the psychology of money and the behaviors that quietly shape financial lives. Y'all, money's emotional. It's tied to fear, identity, habits, and even relationships. And we've learned that long-term financial success is as much about behavior as it is math. Even the best financial plan can be undone by poor behavior, while good financial behavior has the potential to compound more powerfully than investment returns. In this series, we explore why people struggle with money, how emotions drive decisions, and how habits shape your financial life. This is the stuff about money they didn't teach you in school, Psychology Edition. This is the Stuff About Money They Didn't Teach You in School podcast. I am joined by my good friend and friend of the show, Dr. Matt, family therapist and couples counselor. And we are recording this series on the psychology of money. If you've been following us, this is episode 6, and we've just been talking about just that, the psychology of money, everything from mindset to love and money to motivation, understanding our emotions. And in this episode, we're talking about control. And by control, I think there's some of us who believe that our financial success is largely dictated by external influence outside of my control. This is the card that I was dealt, or the deck hand, the hand.
The hand that I was dealt.
Yeah, you know, when you grow up in a Spanish household, we get our idioms mixed up every now and then. Idiot, was that an idiom? Did I even get that part out right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a child of immigrants, man. Like, there's a certain external outcome that's going to happen. I have no control over that, right? I have no control over the house that I was born into.
That's right.
External influence.
Yeah.
But from financial success standpoint, there are some of us who believe that no, we do have internal control over our financial success. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we were talking about this episode as being a discussion around the awareness of how much control do I have in my own personal finances.
Mm-hmm.
With some acknowledgement then that market control or certain kinds of control is an illusion. I cannot control the market.
That's right.
Like I cannot control the weather. Like I cannot control the macroeconomy.
That's right. I can't control the tax policy. I can't control monetary policy, whether the Fed cuts interest rates or they don't cut interest rates. I can't control whether we go to war or not.
Yeah. Sometimes I can control when I decide to buy a house, but sometimes not. I might need to buy a house.
Well, right? I can argue that maybe you could rent. You don't.
Maybe I could rent, right? But
right. Okay.
I may be in a position where I need to move.
Yeah.
And then I have to make some decisions. And I may not be able to wait till the interest rates are as favorable as I'd like them to be.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
Yeah. And so in psychology, we talk about internal locus of control and external locus of control.
Okay.
And when I use these terms, I mean they're sort of the predisposition or mindset, going back to episode 1, that I have more or less control in my own life.
Okay.
So an internal locus of control would mean I'm the captain of my ship. I determine its course. I have the ability to choose my future. I have the ability.
Ownership. I have direct ownership over my financial outcomes.
And influence. Power. Real power.
Yeah.
Over
you said
what happens.
The captain of your ship. Matt, what happens if a hurricane comes through while you're on your ship?
Yeah.
Control over that.
Right. Right. Internal locus of control people, it's a spectrum. It's a continuum. So you could fall in the middle and be a little bit more of both, but you could fall on one extreme end and be more in the camp of, doesn't matter if a hurricane is coming, I'm going to steer my ship to safety. I got this. I fortified my ship. I've done all the things. I have the internal locus of control people, which, by the way, like culturally, Americans, North Americans, are more internal locus of control people. We believe we have a lot of influence over our present and future. External locus of control people tend to put a lot of that onto some other thing, that the gods control what happens to me, my sign, my astrology. I'm a whatever, I'm a Libra. I don't know what I am, but the government, my parents, it's the economy.
Yeah.
Who can save in this economy?
Yeah.
The external locus of control put a lot of belief, assign a lot of power to something beyond themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm wondering, it'd be really cool. I'm sure there's stats out there somewhere, but I would imagine both you and I are entrepreneurs. We own our own businesses. I imagine that we both have a fairly high sense of like, hey, I have some influence. I have a lot of control.
Agency. I have agency over
my financial outcome.
My circumstance, right?
But I would also say, knowing you and knowing myself, we're also realists and saying, hey, we recognize that there's some things that are outside of our control.
Yeah.
So from an energy standpoint, from a resource, capital resource standpoint, an emotional resource standpoint, a mental resource standpoint, I'm going to try to identify the things that I have control over and control those things, and not try to control the things that are outside of my control, that are dictated. Because I think there's a reality. I think that there is some truth. There's a lot of truth to this idea that there are external factors that impact our ability to have financial success. And in previous episodes, we've talked about how we respond to those, those events have a lot to say. So I do think that there's a balanced approach, that a recognition that I have control, but then I'm also, the environment, the ecosystem dictates certain things that are outside of my control. Therefore, I have to recalibrate, reflect, reorient, retreat, and then strategize, and then come back with tactics to overcome some things that are outside of our control.
Right. Yeah. And, as it comes to personal finance, that might be looking at your spending decisions. That might be looking at your financial commitments.
Yeah.
As we talked about in, I think, episode 3, it might look at your processes, your systems, your habits.
Yeah. That's right. Your I think you nailed it. Your savings behavior. You can decide how much you can save. You can decide if you're going to take a European vacation, or you can decide if you're just going to go to the Gulf Coast.
Yeah.
On a smaller vacation in a particular environment, right? You can decide if you're going to make I had a conversation today with a client about cars. They're in the market for a new car. They do well. And we talked about the consequence, or not the consequence, but the outcome of, do you buy a sporty luxury car, or do you buy a modest, truck, right? And that was the conversation. Like, that is a point of control that you have.
Yeah. And of course, sporty luxury all day.
Oh, yeah. That's all day. Well, sure. If you have the ability to. A good friend of mine would always say, if you can't afford something twice, you can't afford it.
Yeah.
So if you can afford to go buy 2 sporty luxury cars, put the down payment twice and make the monthly payment twice. If you can't afford that twice, then you can't afford the sporty luxury car. Again, a point of control. Right?
Yes, it's a way. That's a way to exercise some control. Let me give you. Let me tell you a story. I may have told you years ago, but I'll tell it again in this context. I used to work with clients that had no money, or very, 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 very little money.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we would talk sometimes about personal finance, budgeting, things like that, savings, and they would say, I just don't have any extra money to put away in savings. And often they didn't. I mean, they were operating on razor thin margins. And living here in New Orleans, being under-resourced, having very little extra money makes you very vulnerable. Savings helps protect you somewhat. You insure yourself in a way. And so it was really important for these folks to have a little margin of money. These were folks, Eric, that during Hurricane Katrina didn't have money to evacuate. So they either had to stay here and suffer, or they had to jump on a bus and go to wherever it took them. They didn't know where they were going to end up. They had been through that, and so they wanted a little bit more assurance that that wouldn't happen next time. And so I remember taking this small group of clients, and we wrote out all their income and all their expenses, and we planned for each one a strategy so that they could save $20 a month with the goal of getting to $100. And that $100 made them feel like they had some agency in the event that this ever mass evacuation happened again. They could at least buy their own bus ticket and go somewhere to where they had family or to where they had resources. They could go somewhere. They had a little bit more power in the moment. And so, we don't have control over the weather. We don't have control over which houses get damaged in a hurricane, or if your power goes out or not. But we do have control over saving a little money so we can get to a destination that might be safer.
Yeah. So in your example, you're right. I can't control the weather, but if I'm in a position to save money, to put it in an account in the event an emergency happens,
or my sock,
or your sock, if that's where you save your money.
Yeah.
My dad used to have a big water jug. You put pennies in it. But
Yeah.
if you're in a position to do that, then prudence says, do that.
Yeah.
Right? You have control over that. Versus if you don't do that, if you decide to spend the money on something else and you don't save, and then you feel as though I can't save because I'm a victim of some circumstance, of some outside control. And I see this all the time. I was talking to Xavier this morning, specifically about some clients. I don't even know how to help this client. They have money, they feel like they don't have money, but they constantly buy things that don't make sense in their circumstance that they can't afford. And then something bad happens and they don't have money to get out of it. I don't understand. There's a sense of you have control what you can control. You can control your spending. You can control your impulses. You can control how you react to how you feel about certain situations. You can control if you go to cash in your investment portfolio. You can control if you want to put all your life savings in a SpaceX IPO that may or may not launch, right? That is not
very timely. Yes, very timely.
That is not stock advice, but you get the idea. I think it's healthy. And I think that the financially successful people generally have a healthy or balanced approach to recognizing what is in their control and what is outside of their control.
Yeah. And what's an illusion of control and what is totally within your control.
Yes. Yeah. So you want to use your capital, you want to use your resources, and you want to direct them to the areas where you can exercise control, where you can exercise influence over your outcome. And not spend money on the areas that you cannot exercise control over the outcome. So
we want certainty.
Yeah.
We want to be reassured that a pandemic's not coming again, that I'm not going to be in a devastating car wreck on the way to work, that my business isn't going to be crumbled by the next storm or tornado or earthquake or whatever. We can't have that certainty, but we can certainly act in some prudent financial ways.
We could buy insurance, we could
enough insurance, right?
Appropriate insurance. That's
not
right.
Go cheap on the insurance.
That's right. Appropriate health insurance, and so on and so forth. Well, cool. I think this is kind of, so much of this is mindset, right? Kind of episode 1, we talked about mindset. We're talking about control. This is definitely a mindset. Do I control my financial outcomes? Do I not control my financial outcomes. And I think this is a powerful one. As entrepreneurs, again, I think every entrepreneur inherently at some level has this inherent belief that I have a lot of control over my financial future.
But it is teasing out and separating what you have more influence over and what you have less influence over.
Yeah, and maybe that's a good exercise, good self-reflection. Sit down and think about where are you expending resources where you have no control over, and maybe you should be expending them somewhere else. Cool, Matt. Thanks again for your contribution to the Stuff About Money podcast. You are adding value to the lives of our listeners. And hey, guys, if y'all like this, please like and share and follow us for more good, valuable information. Matt, thanks again.
Thanks.